Hello and welcome. I'm Trip, and in this video I'm going to be showing you a no weld method of installing these -10 fittings, AN fittings, into your valve cover. So if you're like me and you want to run some oil catch cans to your valve cover and you don't have a TIG welder because this is aluminum, I can't weld on it, and they found another way to put some -10s in them. So I'm gonna make some big holes and make my own threads so I can screw this on. Now you can buy valve covers with the -10s already in it, but they're a little pricey. And so I just plan on making my own oil catch can setup. I'm gonna build my own lines and everything. And I'm going to show you how to do that. I do have 2 valve covers, so because I have 2 engines, so if I mess one up, luckily I have a backup. So let's not mess this one up, so I don't have to do that. Okay, the plan of action is this is a 37 by 64th drill bit. I can throw a link down in the description of where to get this. I'm going to make 2 holes. Then I'm going to use this 3/8 tap to make threads. Easy enough. And this should screw right on. But before I start, I wanted to practice. So I found this old Mazda Miata oil pan. That's definitely not good anymore. And I went ahead and I tapped it as a test. Because this is a pretty thick piece of aluminum, kind of similar to the valve cover. And I did pretty good. Think it'll work. Pretty gnarly crack. This came off the lifted Miata before it was lifted, when it was still factory height. So if you've never tapped and died anything before, I'll definitely do a practice run before you mess up your valve cover. This can be used on other vehicles, not just Honda valve covers. Got my marks marked out where I want to drill. You want to try to get this as high as you can without getting into this bend. And you also want to go as far right as you possibly can, kind of close to the dipstick. You'll find out why in a little bit later. Since this is for vapor, not for oil to go through, so you don't want the oil to slosh in there if you can help it. That's why you want to go as high as you can without getting too far into that edge. Now on the back side of the valve cover, probably hard to see, but there's another secondary wall there. So that's going to be kind of the tricky part, is that I got to drill through both of them and tap both of them. So make sure it's lined up with each other. Okay, now that the easy part's done, now we get the little more harder part, which is actually threading the holes. This is a NPT 3/8-18. Unfortunately, I don't have a big enough T-handle for that. It's pretty big. So I'm going to have to use a socket. This is where I messed up. I didn't bottom it out. You see how many threads is still sticking out? Now let's do a test fit. See if she screws in. Screwing in pretty nicely, pretty smooth. Okay, my first tap didn't go as planned. As you can see what happened is my tap wasn't able to go all the way through because it hits part of that little baffling wall though. You can see it. It hits that before I'm able to bottom this out and take it to the widest part. And I tried to thread this down anyway, so I threaded it in, give it a little nudge, and it ended up stripping this out. These things are soft, so you can strip them out very easily. So I essentially destroyed the threads in it, destroyed the threads in that. And this one is no good. Which I think this would have been okay if I went a little bit farther to the right. There's a hole there, you can see it. If I would have made this hole to the right a little bit, it would have worked a lot better. Because it would have gave this somewhere to go. And I would have been able to bottom this out. But I'm making these mistakes, so you don't have to. I do have an idea on how to fix it. Let's try this again with the other hole. Okay, this one worked great. Threaded it in, did not strip. So that one's good to go. Okay, the Amazon ferry came by, dropped off my new fitting. This is a -10 fitting that comes with these two little gaskets so I can sandwich it in there. Unfortunately, I couldn't find one that stepped down a smaller size is what I wanted. So now I'm going to have to drill that hole bigger to this size. It's currently it won't fit. I don't have a drill bit this size, so I'm going to have to use my step bit. Hey, I got my -10 fitting in. Took a lot of cutting and grinding, but I got it in. I did have to chop that little guy up a little bit so my nut would go on, but it's not a big deal as long as you had the right bits. And I don't have it tightened right now, I just have it snug because it's going to come right back off so I can clean them up. Okay, I tightened up my fitting, and since this isn't flat down here, I put a few washers underneath the nut That made my fitting a lot tighter and my seal a lot better. It shouldn't be leaking oil. I do plan on putting a little bit of OTV or something underneath here. But next, I need to do the super important part, kind of sucky part, is it sucks that this doesn't come off, because now there's a bunch of metal shavings all up in here. So I'm gonna have to flush this thing a lot, then flush it again and flush it again, and try my hardest to get all those metal shavings that are down in there.
Five minutes later.
It's always kind of dark outside. No, you probably can't see much. But I'm letting it drip dry right now. You know, I spread as much water inside underneath that baffle as I could. I will shake it around, pour it out. Just did that like 20 times over and over again to get as much of those shavings out as possible. But even after my mess ups, I still think it came out pretty good. I'm happy with that. But if you plan on following me and doing this yourself, I highly recommend going over to the right towards your dipstick as much as possible, for 2 reasons. Unfortunately, it's really hard to see, but there's a hole right here on the side of that wall, and also you'll also avoid this thing, because if you do that, the issue I had could be avoided. So the issue I had is I wasn't able to bottom out this. I was only able to go like on this far before I hit the wall. If I moved it over, I would have been able to go through, this would have been able to go through the hole. So I would have been able to completely thread this out. It goes from skinny to wide, and I can get all the way down to the wide, which is why it stripped it out when I went to tighten it. But even if you line it up with that hole, you might still have to widen that hole a little bit, but it probably won't be as much as what I had to do, since mine was kind of on the corner of the wall, which made things a little difficult. Also, I did have to block off this port since I won't be able to use it anymore. I don't know if I mentioned in this video that this isn't going in a Honda. It's going in my FOS, which is rear-wheel drive. This means this port goes against the firewall, so it's kind of hard to run anything to it anyway. But if your car's a front-wheel drive setup like this was meant to be, you can put them on the other side. There's more room, but the only downside is a lot of room. It's less likely for the fitting to go underneath the baffle. And the reason you want to go underneath the baffle is it's less likely for oil to slosh into that line. You can still do it, it's still fine. This won't be as effective if it goes underneath this. I was going to make all my lines and fittings and stuff in this video, but the engine has to be in the car for me to get all my accurate length of lines and stuff. So I'll do that later. This video is running a little bit longer than I was wanting, so I'll cut it here. But that is it for this video. I know it's a little dry, but I hope you got something out of it. If you plan on tapping your valve cover, don't do what I did. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe and like these videos, and go check out some of my other videos. And I'll see you later. Peace.